Hey everyone, welcome to Great and Gather Barbecue. This is Kyle, and today I have something really special, a full packer brisket. It's 5 a.m. I'm still thinking. This is my first ever prime brisket that I bought. It's like a baby one, which is why I bought it. It was kind of like cool. 8.9 pounds. It trimmed off. I probably just trimmed off about a pound and a half. So it's a pretty small brisket, but you can see the marbling, and this is where prime. So you have three different grades of meat that you can buy from like Walmart, any type of superstore at that point, or grocery store at that point. It starts at select. That's at like the lowest. Then you have choice, and then you have prime, and then you can go further with Wagyu and that kind of stuff, but this is the best grade you can buy in like a normal store. So I'm pretty excited about it. It's really small. So the hope is it takes about 10 hours to cook today. It's 5 a.m. I'm hoping to eat at about 5 p.m. So give it 10 hours to cook, 2 hours to rest, eat at 5 p.m. So we'll see. But you can see that there's two separate muscles here. I've trimmed out about 1.5 pounds of fat. The seam fat that connects the two muscles is very thick, just fat, very thick. You're not gonna, it doesn't render down or anything, so it's a shame to like just be cutting your money away basically, but it's just what I've always done. And you can, there's still more trimming that you could do on this thing. I'm just kind of like, I want to get it on the smoker. And I feel like briskets, there's a point where you've gone too far, and if you're watching this, maybe you've been there. I don't want to do that today. This thing's so small. It's like the more I cut off, it's gonna be a 5-pound brisket by the end of it, and I want to be able to have something to eat. The goal is to make burn-ins off of this point, so this will get cut probably about right here, and then these will get cubed up, put into a like pan, and this will be burn-ins today, and then this will be the slices. I did slice a little corner off just so I know where my slicing is. After you get rub on it, it's really easy to see the grain right now, and I don't know about you, but after the rub is sitting on there, it's caked on there, at the end of it you're like, wait a minute, I think I remember how the grain went. And you never want to slice it wrong, because you want to slice against the grain. So I always just chop off the end that's going to continue slicing. You lose just a little bit, like a little nugget basically. I'll put it on the smoker, maybe I can eat it beforehand, it will cook a lot faster. But yeah, so I'm excited. Today I'm using 2 new rubs I've never used on a brisket, so we'll see how that goes. It's the Cosmos Texas beef. I think it's kind of like a SBG in a way. So I'm going to use this as a base layer, and then I'm going to use the Cosmos cow cover as the normal layer. It's been sitting out for half hour or so, so it's got a lot of moisture coming out of it. So I'm not going to put a binder on it. The stuff should stick pretty good. So I'm going to cook it fat side up today. So I'm going to put seasoning on this side first, and yeah, and then I'll explain kind of what temperature I'm cooking at after I season this thing up. All right, guys, so I got it all seasoned up. I'm cooking it fat side up again. But yeah, so seasoning stuck really good. Basically, I have the pits and spits pre-warmed to preheated, pre-smoked, I need coffee. It is 5 a.m. and it's 200 degrees. I'm gonna keep it kind of low for the first little bit. I'm gonna bump it up to 225, which is generally your typical, like when you think of smoking. I'll bump it up to 225 after about 3 hours. Depending on how fast this thing, I don't want it to necessarily get done too quick. The goal is to eat around 5, not noon. So I don't think it would cook that fast. But anyway, so it's at 200 degrees right now. But we are gonna wrap this once the meat hits 160 degrees with butcher paper. Something I've always done. It keeps, I feel like, a little bit of moisture. I didn't inject this one, so I'm gonna probably put a little bit of the brisket mop from the Cosmos that I still have left over inside of the wrap. So yeah, 200 degrees until it hits 160 degrees, or if it's going really slow, I'll bump it to 225, the pits and spits, until it hits 160. And then yeah, I'll see you back when we wrap this thing. All right, guys, it's been about 4.5 hours. It is at 160 degrees. I did have quite a few probes in this thing, but
they are all right around the 160 range. The one in the smallest part of the flat, it's like 170 and some change, but it's because it's such a thin piece of metal there. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna wrap this with butcher paper. I used this last time, and it's more or less because it's good, but also I need to start using some of my stuff. I don't know about you, but I have kind of like this arsenal of sauces, rubs, etc. And I always buy more before I really use stuff. That's why I'm using different rubs on this today. I'm trying different stuff out. So this stuff is good. It's a Cosmos Brisket Mop competition, and it's a concentrate. And I didn't have beef broth today in the house, so I actually just put maybe a quarter full of this stuff and filled the rest with water. It's going to add moisture regardless, and the stuff is real good. It's just not very thick. This, at least right now, I didn't do it very thick. So I'm going to wrap this up, put this inside the butcher paper. It's still fat side up right now, and then we're going to put it back on. I bumped the temp to 225 after 3 hours and let it go until basically they're around the 200 range, probe tender. It's got to be probe tender. That's the key with brisket. And then I'm going to be separating the flat from the point, chopping this to make burn ends, and then putting them back on. So yeah, I'll probably just fast forward to me wrapping it. All right, so it's wrapped. It's got the brisket mop stuff in it, and I'm gonna be able to put more probes in, and it's going right back on. So we'll see. I'll come back on video when I'm slicing it for the burn ends, and then I'll show you the burn end process. So see you soon. All right, guys, so I just pulled it off. It is like 203, probe tender. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna separate. You can see this flat right here. This is the point. It's really shrunk because this was a lot of fat. So, and then we're gonna wrap this with the double foil underneath the flat, put it in a cooler, and then actually we're gonna put the burn ends into a tin and actually start with that. So my first step is just to kind of find the separation and follow this point. There we go. So this is the flat. There is so much juices in this butcher paper that I want to make sure I save them. So I'm going to put this in my handy dandy prep tub, and I'll put both of these in there. And then this way we don't lose our juice. Make kind of a little boat. I hope you're able to see how much liquid was in there. It smells so good. So now the flat will go back in here. And then it is going to rest. All right, guys, so this is the point. So now what we're gonna do is just slice it in 1 by 1 cubes, put it in there, sauce it up, and then it's going back out on the smoker for about another hour. All right, so now that I got these things in a pan, two more things. I'm going to put some more seasoning back on them, and then I'm going to put the sauce back on it. We're using a Joe's Kansas City original barbecue sauce. So just going to shake a little bit more rub in there, kind of stir it up a little bit. All right, so now the rub is pretty coated, and now we're gonna do the same thing with this. It's pretty thick, but it should still be pretty good. And we're gonna put it right back on. The grill's still, I'll bump it up to probably I'll probably do 235, keep it right at 235, and this will caramelize the barbecue sauce and yeah, kind of cook these things even more. You're looking for all the sides to be covered. You don't necessarily want a ton of sauce, like, you know, sitting in drenches of sauce, but you just want them to have a nice, even, thick coating on all the sides. Since they're cubes, you can get all the sides. All right, so they're sauced up, and I'm gonna go put them right back in the smoker, and I'll show you the end product. All right, guys, so the cook took total about 9.5 hours. This has been resting about 3.5 hours. We wanted to push dinner a little bit later, and that's okay. So the burn ends were like the appetizer. Those got done a little bit ago, so we actually been snacking on those, but I took some good photos, so I'll attach those so you guys can see them. And then I'll also attach my fireboard log so you guys can kind of see what the meat did, the temperature, how long of a cook. Someone I know in the comments asked about how long of a cook was one time, and I have all that data. I just normally delete it. So I'll just put that at the end of the video, or I'll put it at the link below. But yeah, let's slice into this thing. It's been sitting for a while. It's not piping hot, and this is the end I cut off. You can tell. So this is going to be now slicing against the grain. Let me put these burn ends right here. All right, so let's see what we got here. Looks good. Flap test. It is flapping pretty good, and then the pull apart is good to go. So even though this has been resting 4 hours, it still is warm enough and tender enough, and yeah, it should be delicious. So thanks for joining me on this episode, and get yourself a prime brisket and enjoy it. Make some burn ends.